today, tomorrow. My name is Mariana Cordier, and I am your host. I am coming to you from my home via Zoom. Many of us struggle to understand or do not want to deal with financial issues because it seems either overwhelming or confusing. Today, I have three guests that are giving us tips, ideas, and strategies for navigating different and difficult financial issues. My first guests are Heather Ramlal and Linly Ramlal, a father-daughter team that are investment advisors and specialize in helping middle-class clients. I also have Saman Qadeer joining us to provide financial tips for small businesses. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining me. And I will start with the father-daughter team. I think that's so fantastic. You guys are working together and mentoring your daughter. That's fantastic.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Heather Ramlal. I've been in the financial industry for going on about 5 years now, full-time for about going on 3. I'd like to introduce my father, Linly Ramlal. He's been my mentor for as long as I can remember.
Well, he's dad, right? But he's been in the financial industry, in the investment industry for more than 20 years, correct?
Correct, for
Yeah.
about 25 years now. So I am going to let him take over the first part.
Well, so I'd like to ask you, many people have lots of struggles of even wrapping their minds around their debt, their credit, strategies to be more successful with their earnings. What do you recommend clients when they come to see you?
First, what we like to do is we just like to put everything on the table. We just get an analysis of what they have. We like to get what their income is, what their situation is. Everything is financial, is personal to them. So we get all of their situation. Just what their job, everything, income, what their goals are, and everything is tailored to them.
So, Lily, when you have someone that comes to you and is unsure whether they even should have an investor, a financial advisor and such, investment advisor, what do you tell them?
Well, first, before I answer your question, let me spend just a couple of minutes tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Linly Ramlal, and I actually come from 2 different backgrounds. I'm a pharmacist by profession. And also, in 1996, I got into the financial services industry. So I've been in the financial industry now for 25 years. And our objective here is to provide financial literacy education to people and break it down in such a way that is very simple and in layman language so that they can understand. Because a lot of times when people thinking about financial planning and investments and those kind of things, they think it's very complicated. So what we do, like Heather mentioned, the first thing we do is we try to get an understanding of the particular individual that we're dealing with. And
that's great. So since the audience and we have limited time, what are typically some tips that you give clients after having done the analysis and the overall, what do you typically find is things that you advise clients that they can do to improve their financial status?
Well, one of the main things is that in terms of financial planning, what a lot of people try to do is to try to budget and save money with a pay yourself last mentality, when in reality, it's the exact opposite. It's a concept called pay yourself first. So what we try to do is to really educate them and make a mindset shift in terms of them understanding about proper financial literacy. And once we get them to understand, if you want to save money, you want to be able to build wealth, you want to build proper financial planning, you really got to understand about that concept called pay yourself first.
And how do you slowly educate or give a client financial literacy when they may not have any?
Yeah, it's an ongoing process. So what I do is I do free seminars 3 times per week, educating them on different topics like debt management, emergency fund, investment, protection, because financial literacy is not just about one topic. It's a very, very broad subject. But those I find out are the main 4, what we call cornerstones of developing proper financial understanding: debt management, emergency fund, investment, and protection. And then we have a special order that it takes, but that will come during the education process. The seminars are free. We do them 3 times every single week.
That's great. And Saman, to get you into this conversation, you have a lot of clients that are small business owners and some folks that are just sole proprietors and stuff like that, and have, they struggle also with financial literacy. What are some tips or information that you encourage them to get or explore or have to, make the process better or more successful?
Well, I think, I speak my practice. Yes, I'm an attorney that advises small businesses on a variety of matters, basically almost like an outside general counsel. And I think our world has really changed after COVID-19. And our clients, just the way they've been impacted, it's just struggling to survive. Doesn't matter if you're a small business owner, medium or large, it impacted everyone, and in the same way, actually. And so one of the first things I tell people, especially for sole proprietors that were, especially with a lot of the government-backed loans that have come out and stuff, one of the biggest and most important thing is for you to even have a business bank account. It
Right.
is so incredibly important, and preferably do it with a local bank where you actually have a relationship manager assigned to you. So that way, if you have any questions, if you have any issues, you need a line of credit, they're there to work with you on that basis. And it's a lot of emergency remediation, risk management, that they're able to provide you with the services and offerings of the banking institution. It's great to be able to Google it, but it's wonderful to be able to get somebody on the phone as well to work with you in a sincere manner, where they understand the before and they understand the after of your business and your financial standing. The second thing I would say is that a lot of businesses are struggling to make payroll. At the same time, struggling with the idea of how do I pay the landlord? My business is closed. We tell people one of the biggest things with financial literacy is how do you plan your payments for the month? And one of the biggest things is open up those contracts again that make those payments due. Is there a force majeure clause that is, perhaps allowing you to kick forward some of the payments for landlords so that you can at least pay your employees? Because you can't get out of paying employees at the right time. You cannot, that's just a huge no-no. Or the taxes you have to remit for sales taxes. You don't want to be in non-compliance on those things. And the second thing is that the third thing is if you're eligible for the PPP loans or the economic injury disaster loans, take them, because those are the cheapest interest rates that you're going to get on the market. And if you don't know what those loans are about, that's why it's important to have that relationship banker that can help you with the application. Because for small business owners, oftentimes they say, I don't think I'm eligible because I'm not, I don't have all of the infrastructure that some of the other companies do. And to be honest, daycare owners to landscapers, they've all been able to access it if they're able to get their information and their paperwork together.
Gotcha.
And so it's, those are some of the firsthand things that can happen. And then, also there's a tremendous amount of credit card debt. And we tell people is that, yes, it's great to have credit cards, but don't go past 50% of your line of credit, because to be honest, that it's going to drop your score in your individual. Because with businesses, small businesses, there's a really blurry line between their individual credit score and the company credit, because they do everything there's a commingling of funds. It's allowed for some of them. And, you just end up carrying forward so much debt without even realizing how quickly you're going through it.
Out of curiosity, Saman, with individual credit scores and how they're reported, does the debt ratio to the line of credit also, is that the same?
It's tremendous. The higher your debt ratio is, the lower your credit score is going to be. And so if you anticipate, especially as a small business owner, or you could even be an employee, to be honest, if you have like 1 or 2 credit cards, but you don't have a lot of savings and you are anticipating large expenses coming up, as long as you budget, you're not going to go past those expenses. I would actually call the credit card company beforehand and be proactive. Can I increase my credit line? So that way, once those expenses do hit your account, that's fine. But the thing is that you're going to have that buffer for the credit balance, and the companies are more likely to give it to you when you have low revolving balances and a good credit history. And so it's about being smart about things and proactive, and maybe forecasting a little bit of what your expenses are going to look like. And then there are those that have a lot of credit card debt and they can never seem to be able to pay it off. And I oftentimes advise some of my clients that, if you have 4 or 5 credit cards, some of them are 10,000, 5,000, start with the lowest one and slowly pay that off. And when you pay that off, it's clearing your debt. That in itself has a huge impact on your score. Even though you might have $15,000 of debt, but you actually paid off a line of credit of maybe $3,000, that is good standing. It's good faith that you're showing. And those are the things, and you work your way backwards. That way you're not always bogged down by the interest rates that you're carrying over, and you're just paying those at the end of the day.
Gotcha. And Heather, with helping clients during this pandemic period, where a lot of people probably have accrued debt because of their jobs, and maybe they were fired or furloughed or whatever, what recommendations do you have beyond what Saman had said for managing their debt, or strategies to look for how to avoid debt?
Well, actually, one of the things that we try to encourage people, especially in these times, is to build up a second source of income. And we are able to help people virtually to be able to do that. So
is that getting another job? Is that what you're talking about?
Not a job, but we provide them an opportunity for business, whereby they can stay at home and be able to build up a second income. So it's done 100% virtual.
That's great. And what are some other ideas for controlling or improving debt?
So what we try to do is to, number one, help people to increase their cash flow, because a dollar could only go so many ways, and then that's it. So we try to get them to increase their cash flow and try to get them to decrease their expenses. They say we live in America. We know how to spend. We have very, very tough time knowing how to save money. So what we try to do is to bring an awareness where they try to prioritize spending and, become more conscious, more aware of assets versus liabilities, and, wants versus needs, and those kind of things.
And so how do you convince young people, recent college grads, to understand this kind of financial literacy in a, easy peasy, straightforward kind of way to understand it quickly and apply it quickly?
You lay out their goals. So if they, because a lot of my peers, they want to, I'm not speaking, I'll speak in generals. Some want to be stereotypical and shop, and some want to, everyone just has their different goals, but you have to realize that you have to make a plan to accomplish them. So you have to make one step to get to the next step, to get to the next step, to get to the next step. So little saving habits that are consistent go a very long way. So if you save a set of money, say weekly, you put aside such and such and such weekly when you could have done that, say, shopping or doing something else, or you could have spent a little bit extra shopping, but you save that money goes a long way. And say if you invested it and that earned a little bit of interest for you rather than you went shopping and that didn't make money for you, you keep doing that and that grows with time. You turn around and that time compounds it for you. You turn around and you have that little that egg there.
So gotcha. So the idea of maybe putting a few dollars aside every paycheck or every whatever cycle you have, eventually it adds up and it helps out. Saman, what is your experience and what have you advised young people who have just got out of university or college and they've got student loans? And the question, do I forbear? Do I start paying? How do I structure dealing with that kind of debt? I'm asking you because I know that a lot of programs right now is putting off paying your student loan, right? Because of everything that's going on. What do you think about all that?
I think, well, it depends. Like, do you have public loans or do you have private sector loans, right? So one of the most important things with student loans is, the first question I asked really is, it's not really even the amount that you owe, what's the interest you owe on them. If it's a private loan, then I would urge you look at something like, for instance, the Rhode Island Student Loan Assistance Program. They've got the lowest interest rates out there in the market. I think it's a loan portfolio it's a public-private partnership with the state of Rhode Island, and they almost give the loan to anyone because they're trying to increase the breadth of their loan portfolio. And getting those percentage points down by even 3% is just, you could pay off your loan in 15 instead of 30. The other thing is that paying your public loans, they are in forbearance, but there's a lot of conversation of, well, is it worth paying yet if there's going to be a significant amount that's going to be written off? There's not enough clarity there. I mean, there's conversations of maybe paying off 20,000, maybe 50,000. So you don't want to pay down 30,000 to find out that the federal government has written off 50. And so there's a little bit of a wait and see right now. Otherwise, I would have said that if we knew that student loan payments were going to start up again, then I would advise, even though the interest itself is in forbearance, keep that, but keep paying your student loans. That makes a huge, huge impact, because when you pay off the student loan without the interest, like if you owe $60,000 and $5,000 is your annual interest, you do realize that if you made $5,000 of payment, first it would hit the interest, and then you would go to paying off your student loans for the actual principal. So you have to be a little bit smart about it, but student loans is a game that's a little bit tricky right now to navigate with the pandemic assistance that's going on from the Fed. One thing I would say is to go to Heather's points about small, well, not even small business, but it's more of an entrepreneurial spirit that exists in every generation, especially young professionals coming out of college, or even 2 or 3 years out of college. The world is just so interconnected, and the possibilities of doing work virtually is it's boundless. And a lot of people want to start out doing their businesses, but they don't have the capital, or they think that, well, this is going to eat up into my savings. And I say, get organized, register an LLC or something in your name, so that way you can at least take the tax write-off if you have a salary, you know, for the expenses that you do incur. You know, if you want to order this type of material, but you're doing this sort of work, you know, product development or whatnot, it's great to have, because if anything, you know, there's an expense that you're putting on for a second income that you're potentially creating for yourself. It might take 5 years, but you're doing it slowly, but it's not eating away at your savings. If anything, that money comes back to you at the end of the year as a little kitty or a savings bank, while you're trying to get your business started, you know, for all the expenses that you run. And that's a way that people can keep sustainable incomes with two streams coming in for one person. And you're more willing to take risks, because I think in this generation, the reason why people don't adopt the entrepreneurial spirit or start small businesses is because our generation, it's extremely held down by student loan debt. Anything excess we have, it actually goes into student loans.
Right. So student loans, I know I'm still paying.
So, you know.
But with regard to other things that, Heather, you see people in your generation facing or struggling with after either coming out of college or, you know, doing a trade or anything like that. What are some of the, you know, difficulties or struggles that young folks are facing in financial literacy?
I see that some people, they underestimate the power of financial literacy. They don't realize it until they don't realize the power of it in their 20s. They don't realize the power of saving, the impact of time on saving, the realization that if you could just save a smaller amount for consistently over a number of years, say 10 years, rather than starting later, the starting sooner really helps.
So why is it that young people struggle sometimes with the saving thing? I remember when I was young, it was because, you know, I got a job, I can now buy whatever I want. But what is it with your generation? Is it the same thing? Is it different? What is it that you guys struggle with the concept of saving?
I think and this might just be opinion and what I'm seeing around. A lot of it, and you do come back to student loans, it's pretty prominent. I did go to a private school where tuition was pretty hefty. I have some peers just in undergrad, they graduated with 100,000 student loans. So it is pretty prominent out there. And wanting to get started in life, they just accrue more debt, and then they pursue more advanced degrees. It's more debt, so they push off saving to pay debt, and that's a huge factor.
Yeah, go ahead, Saman.
You know, one of the biggest things is if you have the luxury and the opportunity to do so, and I think COVID has taught us that, is that a lot of college students, they're also, they have their own money and they want to spend it the way they do. But then one of the biggest things that does hold down your income, or is portion of your income, it's not just student loans, it's the fact that it's like housing, right? Like rent payments. And if you have the opportunity to go home and work from home for a little while, the amount of money that you are able to stash up to save, to pay for college, to pay off your student loans, or even to pay for a second degree, it's just, you really end up saving. I mean, I speak for myself. I remember when I moved back to the US, I worked overseas for a couple of years. And my husband and I, we were living with my parents for a few months because we just couldn't find any place to rent. The rent was 98% capacity taken in the area we wanted to live in. And we had to live with my parents for 6 months. Now that seems like a very difficult undertaking. And we did it with a newborn baby, but that 6 months enabled us to buy a house.
That's amazing, because I think that that's something that I remember when I came out of college, a lot of people were saying, if you can buy a house or an apartment, it's better than incurring, the rent and not getting anything back because
Yeah.
it's not an investment.
Especially at this time when interest rates are so low. I mean, it's really, I mean, the trade-off is just if you can buy even a small home, it's yours. You don't have to worry about rent increases. Your rent is fixed for 30 years. And you build equity. And depending on the area, I mean, I do believe it when they say location, location, location. But depending on the area, if you buy at a right time, even if it's a small place, you fix it up, you could eventually run equity of maybe even $100,000 easily. That's, for some people, that's a couple of years of work, but
Right.
that's how you build upwards and you build wealth sustainably. Those are all investments.
Okay, so if in the last, I think we only have 2 minutes left. It's gone by so fast. It always goes by so fast. Saman, what is 2 main points you want to make sure the audience walks away with?
One would be is watch your credit cards. And if they're getting too high, then stop spending. And 2, if you're using it for, daily expenses, eating out, that sort of stuff, I would say watch what you're eating, as in like change your habits. There is always a sustainable way to survive. And if it means eating out, eat out less. If it means shopping, be more cost conscious of the things that you buy. You can buy nice things, but just buy fewer of them, I always say that, my Bloomingdale's bill is definitely a lot cheaper than my Target bill. So, those are the things, and to really understand and get yourself organized as a business.
And so I think that in closing also, I'd like to remind everyone that there are programs out there to help you improve in your financial literacy. As our guests have told us, they have their programs that you can log on and check out, and many others. So please make an effort. Get educated, get informed, find out what's the best way to lower your debt or how to use your debt in a more savvy way. Like Saman says, make sure your credit card debt doesn't exceed certain levels, and always be on the lookout for advice from people who are, investment advisors that can help you out. I'm Mariana Cordier. I really appreciate all of you joining me on the show as my guests and the audience for watching us. It's always great to see everyone every week. And please remember to check us out on our YouTube channel. It is Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow show. And until next week, Mariana Cordier, good night.